país. And so coming here, I was the oldest. I mean, I'm still the oldest. And I had to learn English, and because being the oldest, I felt like I needed to learn English quickly so that I could interpret for my family. Cuando llegué a Estados Unidos, yo no sabía inglés y sentí que tenía que aprender inglés muy rápido para poder interpretarles a mis papás. And let's see. And so we got here in July, and then my little sister was born in November. And I felt like within that time I had to help my mom when we were at the hospital, like interpreting with my very limited English. So venimos aquí en julio, y entonces yo sabía que mi hermana nació en noviembre, en que en ese tiempo yo tenía que aprender inglés para poder ayudar a mi mamá a interpretarla cuando ella iba a dar a luz a mi hermana. And I knew I didn't know enough English because the doctor asked me how old I was. And I said yes, and then he just like stared at me, and I didn't know that he was asking me. I just, you know, when you're learning English, you're like yes or no, that's your go-to, and that's what I did. And entonces cuando estaba aprendiendo inglés, el doctor me preguntó que cuántos años tenía, entonces yo le dije que sí, porque no sabía lo que me preguntó. Entonces yo le dije, oh, sí, y o sea, era una pregunta que necesitaba decir cuántos años tenía, no sí o no. Pero a veces uno cuando está aprendiendo inglés se va así o no, porque a lo mejor ahí lo paso y lo entiendo. Entonces, in 4th grade, when I came here, I was in newcomers in 4th grade, and then 5th grade, I was in ELL, and 6th grade I was in ELL, and then 7th grade I tested out of ELL classes. And I was glad to test out, not because I didn't want to be in ELL classes, but because I don't know how they do ELL classes now, but when I was in school, like they took you out of social studies and science. Entonces, cuando yo llegué aquí, estaba en la clase de newcomers en el 4º grado, y en el 5º y 6º grado estaba en las clases de ELL, y en el 7º grado pude tomar el examen para ya no estar en esas clases. Entonces, yo estaba feliz porque ya no estaba en esas clases, porque cuando uno está en las clases donde tienen que aprender inglés, a veces no tenemos clases de ciencias o de estudios sociales. And so, when I was in 7th grade, like I realized like I was missing out a lot because my teachers would talk about like, this is what we learn in 6th, 5th, and 6th grade, right? And I was like, well, I never knew all that stuff. Entonces, yo sentía que estaba retrasada en las clases porque los maestros decían, oh, eso es lo que aprendimos en el 5º, 6º grado, y eran cosas que yo no sabía porque tenía que estar en las clases de inglés. Entonces, so growing up, I knew that my parents had came here to, you know, this country for a better future for my brother and myself. I felt like I had to go to school and do like a good job because my parents were making a lot of sacrifices for us. Entonces cuando venimos, cuando yo estaba creciendo, yo sabía que mis papás nos habían traído a este país para un futuro mejor, y ellos habían hecho muchos sacrificios para que nosotros estuviéramos aquí. When we first came, my dad's grandpa passed away like a year after we got here. And my dad's grandpa was more like a father figure because my dad's dad was never really in his life. So I knew that that affected my dad a lot. And then years later, a couple of years later, my mom's older brother passed away. And so those were moments that like I knew like my family couldn't be there for their family, either happy or sad. Like even the happy moments when everybody was getting married or having kids, like I knew my parents were sacrificing those moments, right? Entonces cuando estábamos aquí yo me estaba dando cuenta de los sacrificios que mis papás estaban haciendo, porque cuando vinimos un año después el abuelito de mi papá falleció, y él era como un papá para él porque el papá de mi papá lo dejó cuando él era un niño, y 2 años después se murió el hermano mayor de mi mamá. Y eran momentos que yo veía que mis papás estaban haciendo esos sacrificios para estar en este país para nosotros, y que ellos no estaban con su familia. Entonces, so I currently have DACA. Do all of you know what DACA is? No. So DACA is an immigration status that was passed in 2012 that allowed people like myself that we were undocumented students to be able to be in the country to work. And a lot of people like that I know that have DACA, they were brought here as babies, so growing up they didn't know like their immigration status. So I was more aware of I was different because I was old enough to remember coming to this country. So ahorita yo tengo DACA, que es un permiso que me deja estar aquí en Estados Unidos para poder trabajar. Y muchas personas que yo conozco, ellos, sus papás los trajeron cuando eran bebés, entonces cuando ellos estaban creciendo, ellos no sabían que ellos eran diferentes de los otros estudiantes. Yo sabía eso porque yo tenía 9 años y estaba más consciente de que yo era diferente a los otros estudiantes. So in 8th grade, I went to Walnut Middle School and I was picked to be a DC diplomat. So you guys probably know, you get to go to Washington, DC for a week. And in 8th grade, I was picked to go to DC. You still have to fundraise all that money and stuff, right? But that was my first time flying on a plane, and it was, now that I think about it, it was probably not the safest thing, but I realize now that like I was an undocumented student that flew to the nation's capital, and now like I'm thinking like maybe that was not very safe, but I'm here right now. Entonces en el 8º grado yo fui a la escuela de Walnut y nos escogieron para ir a Washington DC, que es la capital de Estados Unidos. Entonces cuando yo fui, ahora que estoy más grande, me di cuenta que yo cuando fui era mi primera vez subirme en un avión y era mi primera vez viajando a otro lugar, y yo viajé en ese avión a la capital de Estados Unidos siendo una estudiante indocumentada, que a lo mejor no fue lo más seguro para mí, pero en ese momento lo pude hacer y aquí todavía estoy. And so in 8th grade, I missed the page. So then in 8th grade, I also, I was aware of my immigration status, and I was encouraged to apply for the Nebraska College Preparatory Academy, which is a scholarship that allows you to go to UNL. And because I was a rule follower, one of the rules was you have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident to be part of this scholarship. And I wasn't gonna do it because like I know I didn't fit either of those. Entonces en el 8º grado es cuando yo también apliqué para la beca que me ayudó a ir a la universidad. Pero yo no iba a aplicar a esa beca porque las reglas decían que uno tenía que ser un residente permanente o un ciudadano americano, y yo sabía que no era ninguna de los dos, entonces no iba a aplicar para esa beca. But then I talked to a counselor and he encouraged me. He was like, I think they worked with people in your situation before, like I think you could do it. And so I applied and I got in. And entonces yo hablé con un consejero de la escuela y él es el que me motivó para poder aplicar a la beca, y me dijo, creo que han tenido estudiantes en tu situación, si yo fuera tú, yo aplicaría. Entonces apliqué y me dieron la beca. But then fast forward to my junior year of high school, my scholarship talked to me and they were like, hey, like we're gonna be honest, you're not gonna really get the scholarship because you don't qualify for FAFSA. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with FAFSA, but that's what people apply to get scholarships, right? But FAFSA is through the government, and because I'm not a US citizen or a permanent resident, I don't qualify for that money. So my scholarship was like, oh, like you're in this scholarship, but you're not really gonna get the money, okay? Entonces, en mi tercer año de la escuela, mi beca me habló y me dijo, ¿sabes qué? En verdad yo creo que no te vamos a poder dar la beca porque tú no calificas para FAFSA, que es un programa del gobierno para que te da dinero para ir a la universidad. Entonces, tienes la beca, pero en verdad no la tienes porque no te vamos a dar el dinero. And so I was, at that moment, right, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, like all of this I've done and I'm not gonna get the scholarship. So that year, I made not very smart choices and I started hanging out with the wrong people. I started skipping my classes. I didn't go to one of my final exams. That was like a big part of my grade. And I felt like all the work that I had done was not worth it. Like I was giving up. And entonces en ese año cuando me habló la beca sobre el dinero que no me iban a poder dar, yo me empecé a juntar con personas que no hacían buenas cosas, no iba a mis clases, falté a uno de mis exámenes finales que era muy importante para la calificación de la clase. And so while I was still doing all those not so smart choices, my scholarship talked to me and they were like, hey, we're working on getting you private funds for you to go to college. Like there's funders, there's people that got a bunch of money and they want to give you that money, but we have to show you, like we have to show them that you're a good student, you deserve it, right? And so I was like, okay, now I have to like, get back into track so I can get this money. Entonces, mi beca habló conmigo y me dijeron, mira, hay esas personas que son fundadores privados y que tienen ese dinero y que te quieren dar ese dinero, pero tú tienes que demostrarles que tú eres un buen estudiante. ¿Cómo te van a dar dinero para que vayas a la universidad si no haces un buen trabajo? Entonces, ese momento dije, ok, tengo que hacer el trabajo que estaba haciendo antes. And so I was able to go get the money, go to college, but then I went to college and nobody told me this, and I'm telling you guys this because nobody told me this, but when I went to college, I was like one of the few like people of color in my classes. I went to UNL, and UNL is a predominantly white school, PWI, which stands for predominantly white institution, which means like there's not a lot of people of color that go to those schools, right? Entonces cuando yo fui a la universidad, nadie me había dicho esto y lo estoy diciendo a ustedes porque nadie me dijo a mí que cuando yo fuera a la universidad no iba a haber personas que se vieran como yo, no iba a haber personas que tuvieran la misma historia como yo. Entonces, when I went to college, and I was like, oh my gosh, like nobody looks like me. I found a club called the Mexican American Student Association. And that's where I made a lot of friends, people that look like me. We were all first-gen students, like our parents had never gone to college. So we were all pushing each other to like get through college together. None of us knew what we were doing, but we were doing it together. Entonces, cuando llegué a la universidad, encontré un grupo que se llama Mexican American Student Association, que encontré personas que se veían igual que yo y que tenían la misma historia que yo, que nuestros papás no fueron a la escuela. No sabíamos qué estábamos haciendo, pero juntos estábamos haciendo ese trabajo. And so when I said I made bad choices my junior year of high school, I made bad choices again my junior year of college. And not bad choices because I wanted to, but I fell and like took depression, and I didn't know it was depression until later when I look back at it, because I stopped going to classes, I stopped going to work, I wasn't eating, like I was in bed all the time, I stopped going to my internship. Entonces cuando estaba en la universidad, mi tercer año en la universidad, caí en una depresión donde ya no estaba yendo a mis clases, no estaba comiendo, no estaba yendo a trabajar y tenía que ir a un lugar donde hacía horas de comunidad y dejé de ir a ese lugar. And so that was like another moment that I wanted to give up. And so like my junior year of high school, I wanted to give up because my scholarship was like, feel like we don't have the money. My junior year of college, I wanted to give up because that was when, Trump came into presidency and he wanted to get rid of my immigration status. So what that meant for me was once I graduated college, I wasn't going to be able to get a job even if I had a degree. Entonces, la manera de que pasó que me metí en esa depresión es cuando Trump se hizo presidente y él quería eliminar el estatus migratorio que yo tenía. Entonces, eso significaba que aunque yo me graduara de la universidad, yo no iba a poder obtener un trabajo porque ya no iba a tener mi estatus migratorio. Entonces, es cuando otra vez que dije, ya no voy a seguir. And so I really was like, why am I even wasting my time getting this degree? Like, I'm not even gonna get a job. But then I realized, like, okay, I need to get it together and I need to get back on track. Entonces, en ese momento yo dije, ¿para qué voy a gastar mi tiempo agarrando un diploma de la universidad que después no voy a poder usar? Pero después dije, ok, he hecho todo ese trabajo y tengo que seguir adelante. And sometimes we all go through that, right? We go through times where we feel hopeless and you're like, okay, like I'm done here. Like I'm over this, like this is it for me. And a veces tenemos tiempos que decimos, aquí, como dicen en español, aquí tiro la toalla, aquí se acabó, ya no voy a seguir adelante, ¿verdad? And in the US and in society, you know, there's a lot of things that weren't created for us. They weren't created for bilingual people or people of color or women, right? And hay muchas cosas en el país, en la sociedad, que no fueron creados para personas como nosotros. Personas bilingües, personas de color, personas, especialmente las mujeres. And a lot of people know me for like my accomplishments and all the things I've done. You know, I have 2 jobs, I run my small business, I just completed like a podcast with Grand Island Public Schools. I've received awards in the past. In the past, I've had 2 billboards up in town within the last 3 years. There's actually my billboard still up by Highway 281 by Norman Island.
I seen it coming in.
Huh?
I seen it coming in.
Yes, that's me up there. Entonces, ahora la gente me conoce por los reconocimientos, por todas las cosas que yo he logrado, por las cosas que me he ganado en la vida. And even though I accomplished all those things, I can feel proud. I know that all those things, they came with sweat and tears, like literally tears. Y aunque estoy orgullosa de todas las cosas que yo he hecho, yo sé que esas cosas vinieron con sudor y lágrimas. Y literalmente lágrimas porque yo lloré, ¿verdad? And, you know, there were so many times that I wanted to give up, and my siblings, because I'm the oldest, they would always tell me, like, oh, you're so perfect, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize, like, my siblings have never seen me cry, like, I had never shown that to them, right? Entonces había muchas veces que mis hermanos me decían, oh, mira, tú eres perfecta y haces todo bien, pero eran cosas que mis hermanos no veían que yo lloraba o cosas que yo sufría, ¿verdad? And the thing that I want to leave you with is sometimes because you're teenagers, you know, and you don't want to listen to your parents. I didn't want to listen to my parents. I encourage you that instead of like going against what your parents are thinking, go against what society is thinking. Like, challenge what society thinks, like, oh, you're just a teenager, you don't know nothing, right? It's like, no, I have stuff to bring to the table, right? Oh, your English is your second language, you're like, you don't know that much. Or, oh, your family doesn't have money, you don't have a lot to bring, right? I challenge you to bring that to the table and know that you are good enough. Entonces, a veces en la sociedad, la gente nos puede decir que no hacemos un buen trabajo porque eres un adolescente y tú no sabes nada, porque no sabes inglés, o a lo mejor todavía no has aprendido inglés, pero yo te animo a que tú puedas demostrarle a la sociedad que tú sí puedes hacer esto. And the last quote I'm going to leave you with, how many of you guys have a car? Or how many of you, somebody you know has a car? How many of you have helped somebody with a flat tire? ¿Cuántos han tenido un carro o le han ayudado a alguien con una llanta ponchada? So let's say you guys know what happens when you get a flat tire, right? What do you need to do with it? Change it, right? So when you get one flat tire, do you poke holes on the other 3 to have 4 flat tires? No, right? So the analogy I'm trying to give you, right? You have one flat tire, but you have 3 that are still good, and you still have your spare tires, right? So if there's something that you make a mistake and you screw up, why are you gonna dwell over this one flat tire when you still have other ones, right?